everyone. It is Diane Gehart here on day 5 of my How to Write a Book in 5 Minutes speed writing adventure. And today, as I was doing my speed writing, one of the things I felt like I needed to do was to probably took me more than 10 minutes for the record. And that is what part of the magic of speed writing. You get yourself to sit down and open the file and start writing for 5 minutes, but oftentimes you will go 10, 15 minutes because you're just so excited. And so part of what happened for me today was that I'm like, gosh, I need to just put the whole structure of the all the Word documents for all the chapters and the reference section. I needed to, I had some references I wanted to drop in. And I, you kind of like literally create the physical Word document structure. I guess it's not physical, it's all digital information, but you know what I mean. It's in your computer, it's all those files. And it seems like nothing, and yet it does take time. And sometimes the first thing I do with when I start my speed writing project, sometimes I just go in there and I just create the Word documents and the files and the alias and shortcuts to get to this on, my desktop. So it's easy to get in there and write. So I save minutes just looking for files, opening files. And so I actually think this is one of those subtle details that probably no one talks about. So I thought I would actually focus today's video on creating the file structure for a book. And so the current book I am writing is like a dream to me because it's only got 12 files, 11 chapters. It's simple, it's clean, it's neat. Most books are like this. But I'm a textbook author, and not only am I a textbook author, but I write textbooks that have, let's see, 35, about 40 different clinical forms in there. Genograms, diagrams, it's off the charts. So I will show you what a super complex version of this is in case you also have a project that's really complex. But thank goodness, most of our writing projects will just be about 10 to 20 different Word files. I do recommend Word, as I talked about in the last video, just because of it's just got a more robust system for creating the table of contents, for organizing things. So I definitely do recommend Word is compared to Google Docs. At least I've not figured out how to make it work there. And even with Pages, I feel like this is one place where when you have, just any system that you have, and God knows these things get, updated every other month, but making sure that you have a very robust word processing program that really does the table of contents for you, and does a lot of searching. They can generate indexes for you. When you're writing a book, this stuff all matters. So let me just show you the system that I use for all of my large writing projects. In addition to writing 1,500-page books on a regular basis, I am the program coordinator for a nationally accredited marriage and family therapy, which means I write 1,200 to 1,500-page accreditation self-studies regularly, which actually have the most documents. That's often I'm merging 200 or more documents into one beast of a PDF. And so yeah, that is the absolute most complex file structure you need. But it's amazing when you start writing books and long projects, your file structure in your computer makes a huge difference. So let me show you my system that I use for all of these sorts of projects. Basically, this is a relatively simple book. And so, I use chapter 0 is what they would call front matter if you're working with a publisher, but that's everything before chapter 1. So it's your table of contents, it's a foreword, an introduction, your title page, copyright page. That goes what I call chapter 0. And then I list them in my chapter orders, 1 to 10. And then anything after the last chapter, I continue calling it CHB just because I know exactly what order it goes in, and that's going to be my reference section. So this is like beautiful. It is so simple. But now, as I'm doing my speed writing, let's just say I read a journal article or a book or a news article, and I want to talk about some latest evidence in chapter 5. I'm speed writing chapter 1, but now I can just pop in, click open this document, put in, whatever I want to write about, that I recently heard about. And so then I can, jump back and forth between the various chapters whenever I need to as I'm speed writing. And then also as I stumble upon references, boom, it's right there. I go in. In fact, I went in the other day. Okay, I sometimes write more. You get excited, so you do more than, I was doing some references and I just went ahead and pulled stuff from another project I had. So there, boom, I got a ton of references already ready. Oh, you can't see that, can you? Sorry about that. I'll show it to you real quick. So, so another thing I do, and I'll do a whole video on this is, I just happened to be working on another project later in the day. I had a file open and I said, hey, I've got a whole bunch of references I'm going to need for this book. Let me just cut and paste them, put them in, because I know that I'm going to need this eventually. So already I have my five pages of references ready to go. So for those of you who might be working on a more complex project, let me show you what I just submitted Mastering Competencies in Family Therapy for the 4th edition here. So, and here you can see what I do is, and I have everything in this thing, but I have the front matter. I actually got a forward from Harleen Anderson. So I put that there, forward too. And then you can see as we get into this, so when you're working with a publishing house, they will want all of the figures and sometimes even all of the tables in separate documents, because they literally send these off to a special team that does the graphics in the book. So when you're publishing with a publisher, be prepared to have all of your figures in separate files, which drives me insane because as the author, I'm such a visual person. So I like to have all the visual stuff there. So what you will do, so I still, for my own sanity, I put the figures into the text. So as I'm writing, I can see them. I can make sure everything looks right. And then at the end, I will go ahead, and what I do to keep everything in order, you'll see I start calling it chapter 3.1. Or 4.4, there's a space there. But yeah, 4.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. Somehow there is some things got moved around there. And you can see if you have ever seen my textbooks, my Mastering Competencies in Family Therapy, or my Theory and Treatment Planning and Counseling and Psychotherapy, or my case documentation books, they have all of these forms. And so what I do is, because those are all separate Word documents, is how they get handed over to the publisher. I put all of the text, that you would think of the textbook writing is in chapter 6. And then for 6.1 would be the case conceptualization. 6.2 is genogram. 6.3 is the clinical assessment form. Treatment plan is 6.4. And 6.5 is the progress notes. So, yeah, and you can see in chapter 7, I added family mapping symbols. So I had yet another figure that needed to go in a separate document. So you can see very quickly it becomes a beast. And so you can see if this is what my normal textbooks look like when I open up a folder, on my computer, and all I see is 12 files for a book. I'm like, oh God, this is sweet. So yeah, but it's important to know this, and I think helpful as you're just conceptualizing, writing your book. Now, some people might say, why don't you just put it all into one document? And you can do that. My experience is, though, that because the manuscripts the manuscript I turned in for Mastering Competencies, well, I couldn't even, I will tell you, Mac Word, after about 10 years ago, stopped being able to merge that beast that you just saw. You used to be able to merge it all into a master document and paginate it all, but that doesn't work. So, you can, but now you're working in hundreds of pages of a Word document, and you can actually use your headings, and you can use the navigation panel, and you could move between it. I find it much easier to just have these, because each one of these chapters will probably be 30 to 50 pages long and double spaced. All manuscripts are always double spaced in manuscript font text. So it's still going to be hundreds of pages long, even if the final product, which is not double spaced, and it's usually in smaller font than the 12-point new Times New Roman, which is your standard publishing font or manuscript font. It's going to probably be a 250 page book, but I'm going to probably have 400 to 500 pages or more of manuscript. So it's just a lot to navigate in a single Word document. So I definitely recommend putting the chapters together. There is a way to merge all of these using a master document that'll pull everything together at the end. It'll do the table of contents for you. You can use it for indexing, and you can pull it all together, but this is how I write my books. You could also write them separately in whatever 12 different files and then paste them all together. That's another way to do it. But having a clear file structure, when you create new versions of a chapter, sometimes I need to do that. I just create a folder in that, what you just saw there. I'll create a folder. I can go back and show you this. Yeah, here it is. So what I would do here is I create a little folder. It's called drafts. Do take a tip. I've lost many hours searching through drafts, and I put all the old drafts in there and I leave my current ones right there. So that's exactly how I do it. If I'm handing this off to a copy editor, I definitely keep my own clean little drafts. And if I'm going to do a share file, copy all of this, create a share file for the copy editors. I just had my copy editing team at Cengage lose some files. I'm so thankful that I kept my own private copy in a non-shared folder that I can go back and retrieve my original work. So another pro tip, very painfully one life lessons, but never have more than one version of a chapter in your main working drafts. And if you don't want to delete everything all the time. I keep my old drafts and sometimes I go back and pull from them. Oh, another fun document I often have is something that I call cuts. And when I'm cutting something from a chapter, but I think I might just use it someplace else, I throw it all into a single file that's called cuts. And you'll notice cuts comes after chapter. So it usually it comes at the end, but that way, if it's painful to delete something, but it's probably doesn't fit here, you might want to use it someplace else. You put time into writing it. I just drop it into a cuts file. And sometimes I skim that at the, if I feel stuck or, sometimes I remember exactly what I wrote and I want to go find it. You can go back and put it, go back to your cuts file to find it and put it there. But then also, I just also keep old drafts sometimes in case, I've edited something and I'm pretty sure I don't want it, but I don't want to delete all that hard work. Just put those in something that's really clearly labeled so you can find it later, but don't mix it up and have 6 drafts of the same chapter in the same folder. You will accidentally open the wrong one, and then you lose a lot of time kind of untangling which change is where. So hopefully this video is going to help you organize and think about how to organize all of the actual working computer files, which is actually a really important part, because if you've got this running smoothly, you don't waste as much time, you don't get as frustrated, and you're able to keep your momentum going. So hope you found this helpful, and I look forward to hearing about your writing projects.